Hello guys, what's up? This is Murtaza. Welcome back to a Coder's Journey. As you already know, in this playlist, we are going to talk about the different principles when it comes to building robust software applications. And so far, we have covered, like 5 to 7, I think, principles, which are very important. Learning these principles, as I have told you before, will help you build better software and will help you to become a better programmer. And these principles are usually asked about in job interviews, so learning them will help you get a better job. In this video, I have decided to talk about dry, don't repeat yourself. And this is very important. This mostly has to do with code duplication, basically copy pasting your code, right? So we're gonna dive in and we're gonna talk about this principle. So let's go. Don't repeat yourself, or as it is sometimes known, single source of truth, or once and only once. So basically, don't repeat yourself means you shouldn't have code duplication. You shouldn't copy paste your code. So whenever you see yourself copy pasting a piece of code or a method or a piece of logic here and there in your code base, this means that you are violating the dry principle. And of course, there are many disadvantages to copy pasting your code or to have code duplication, which is also a code smell, right? And I will talk about code smells and refactoring in other playlists probably. One of the worst things I think about not respecting dry or having code duplication in your code base is that whenever you copy paste your code or you duplicate a piece of code, a piece of logic in multiple places in your code base, chances are sometimes in the future, you will like to, make some adjustments or modifications to that piece of code. So when that code is scattered, is copy pasted, is duplicated across your code base, you will have to find each place where you have, duplicated that piece of code and update all of them, right? Which is very tedious, of course, and very error prone. I mean, if you forget to make the corresponding updates to one of the places, you will have inconsistency in your software. So probably your software will behave, in a strange way. You will encounter a lot of logical errors and so on. So not only it's a burden, it's so tedious to go and find all of the locations where you have duplicated that piece of code, but chances are that you forget to update some locations where that piece of code is duplicated. And if that happens, as I told you, bad things will happen and your application will start to behave inconsistently. Beyond the surface level, dry implies that every piece of knowledge, every method, every piece of code, right, within your application, within your system should have a single, clear, and authoritative representation. So basically, this means that when you want to implement a piece of code, like for example, when you want to implement the logic of validating the email address of a user, you should implement it once in a method and that's it. Test it, and if it works correctly, that's it. If you want to make use of that logic, you shouldn't implement it again somewhere else, right? You should call that method that you have implemented. So your logic should once and only once be implemented, once and only once. There should be single source of truth about that piece of logic, which in our case is validating the user email address, right? So this prevents duplication at various levels, from lines of code to entire projects. Having code duplication, having a slight amount of code duplication, like for example, one line of code, right? So for example, if you have a project where you have called console.writeLine a couple of times, this is a code duplication, right? So you are having, multiple places where you have called console.writeLine. So what I am trying to say is that having code duplication to a minimum level, like for example, one single line, that's not a bad thing, right? So that is also inevitable. The problem arises when you duplicate large chunks of code, entire methods, like for example, validating the user email address, right? So that will cause problems down the road. So try to implement your business logic once and only once. And then if you need to, use that logic, call that method. So kind of encapsulate the logic in a method, for example, and then call that method, right? So this means that whenever you want to change or make some adjustments to that piece of logic, there is only one place where you need to go and make the update, which of course helps make your code base more maintainable. Essentially, the DRY principle encourages the definition of concepts or abstractions only once in the code base, ensuring clarity for anyone reading or maintaining the code. So as I told you before, your classes, your concepts, business logic, method, abstractions, they should be implemented once and only once. That's it. You implement it once, you test it, and that's it. You put it aside. If you see yourself copy pasting a piece of code, just stop for a moment, step back, think, right? And try to come up with a solution for this problem. Because copy pasting your code might seem to be easy, right? And will help you probably build what you are trying to build right now, but in the future will come back to haunt you and will cause many problems down the road. DRY extends beyond code, right, to elements like configuration files. So for instance, if you have multiple lines multiple copies of configuration files for different environments, like your production, testing environment, the development environment, and then the difference between these configuration files lies in just a few lines of code, that is again a violation of DRY. So basically, if for example this was a simple class, we would probably make a super class, right? And we would put the code application in the super class or the parent class and then subclass, and we would have subclasses and so on. This way, we would eradicate that code duplication. With configuration files, the same thing happens. There are different methods based on the, based on the configuration file that you are using. There are different ways to get rid of that code duplication, to put it in a kind of a super file, right? And then kind of derive different more specific configuration files from that single super file. So this is very important. Whenever you see that you have code duplication in different parts of your projects, even in your configuration files, this means that you are violating the DRY principle. A better approach involves a single copy transformed to accommodate distinct values for different environments. Ultimately, DRY promotes efficiency and clarity by eliminating redundancy and ensuring that each piece of knowledge has a single authoritative representation within the system. So as I told you before, when you implement the thing that you want in only one single place, this means that whenever you want to make some refactorings, make some updates, there is only one single place where you need to do that update, right? And when the application is behaving, strangely, you would have to go to just one single place to hunt down the bug and, eradicate it, as opposed to having a piece of knowledge or a piece of code scattered through your code base. This makes the code base less maintainable, and it becomes very difficult to refactor. Whenever you see code duplication, try to think about the solution. More often than not, there are different options for eradicating that code duplication, which will help you to have a more maintainable code base. And that's it for this video. Thank you so much for sticking with me till the very end. Try to implement the dry principle, go over your projects and think about the places where you are violating this principle. Guys, stay around, because in the next video, I am going to talk about the Yagni principle. You aren't gonna need it, which is of course very important again. Thank you so much. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to A Coder Journey, leave a comment in the comment section if you have anything to say, and catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.